Thank you. Welcome. And it's a pleasure and a privilege to accompany you in yet another episode of Rise Up, Shape Up. And so for this particular session, I was invited to say a little bit about the practice of mindful eating and then to lead a short meditation that would be supportive of healthier eating habits. And so if this is the first time that you're joining us in these sessions, you might not be familiar with what mindfulness is. And so I'm just going to review the definition I've been providing in previous episodes. And so when we talk about the practice of mindfulness, I like drawing on the definition provided by John Kabat-Zinn, who's the founder of mindfulness-based stress reduction. And he really just describes mindfulness as a special way of paying attention. So we've been paying attention our whole life. We typically need to pay attention when we're doing anything important. And so when we're being mindful, we're just paying attention in a particular way, okay? So first, when we're being mindful, we're paying attention on purpose. There's an intentionality underlying the act of being mindful. And second, we're paying attention to whatever is happening in the present moment. So there's a moment-to-moment focus in terms of what we're devoting our attention to. And then the third characteristic of mindfulness is that whatever it is that we're observing in the present moment, whatever it is that's arising in our experience, we pay attention to it without judgment. We pay attention to it with kindness and warmth and humor and curiosity. Okay, so if you just take all of those descriptions and combine them with the activity of eating, mindful eating is therefore basically eating in a manner that involves paying attention to the food that we're eating, paying attention to the act of eating as it unfolds from one moment to the other. So we're exquisitely aware of putting the food in our mouth. We're aware of the fact that we're chewing. We're aware of the flavors that are released in our tongue. Okay. And as we go about this process of eating, we're just allowing the process to unfold without judging it. Okay. So that's what it means to eat mindfully. Now, the question is, what has any of that got to do with eating healthier? Okay. Mindful eating has practical consequences in two ways that I'm going to discuss, which make it supportive for anyone who's interested in cultivating healthier dietary habits. And then the first thing is that when we eat mindfully, the very act of paying close attention to what's happening when we eat invites us to slow down. It's kind of hard to notice all the fine details of our food if we're inhaling our food, okay? So when we start paying close attention, the act of paying attention automatically requires us to slow down. And this doesn't just happen when we eat. Anytime we do any kind of mindful activity, it usually requires us to slow down, okay? And the slowing down is really important because some of you might have heard of this. It takes 20 minutes for the brain to start registering that it's full from the moment that we begin to eat. So in a way, regardless of how much we actually eat, in 20 minutes, the brain will start reporting that, okay, that's it, we're full. And so if we're eating in a rush, if we're eating fast, we end up putting a lot more into our bodies during that 20-minute interval. Compared to if we were eating slowly, we would literally end up consuming much less. And so if you're interested in weight loss or weight management, mindful eating is supportive because when we eat mindfully, we eat less because we end up feeling full before we've consumed far too much. The second way that mindful eating is supportive is when we pay attention to the act of eating, that actually increases our chances of savoring the food that we're eating. We actually get an opportunity to taste what we're eating, to smell, to look at the colors. Okay? We enhance the pleasure that we derive from eating. in other words. Now, again, why is this important? This is important because when we eat and we don't get any pleasure from the act of eating, the brain actually continues to register hunger. Okay, so if you're eating food that's really sad, or you're just eating mechanically, and you're not actually getting any pleasure, any gratification from the food, as far as your brain is concerned, it's as if you haven't consumed anything. So you will continue to feel hungry, or you might actually start craving something after your meal, which basically means you're eating more. So once again, when we eat mindfully, it doesn't automatically mean that we're going to enjoy our food, because if the food's not inherently enjoyable, then there's nothing much we can do about it. But if the food, is tasty and we're paying attention, we're slowing down, we're going to derive much more pleasure from it, which will allow us to feel satiated and satisfied to a greater degree, okay, which helps regulate appetite and which helps prevent cravings. So one thing that I would suggest, whether or not you're interested in weight loss or management, I just invite you to explore eating more mindfully in the days, the weeks, and the months ahead. And even if there's no health benefit to be derived from it, the fact is, food is one of our greatest sources of joy. It's one of those sources of satisfaction and nurturance that we engage with on a daily level. And so when we eat mindfully, we're really just increasing the joy we get out of daily living. Okay. And so the practice that I'm going to be leading isn't actually related to mindful eating. Okay. It contributes, but it's a separate practice, because when we're practicing mindful eating, again, we're eating in a way that allows us to be present to the food, that allows us to fully savor the food, that fully allows us to use all our senses. Okay? So that's what it means to eat mindfully. But the practice that I'm leading is more of a formal meditation practice. Okay? Now, it's still in the realm of food, it's still in the realm of diet, it's still in the realm of eating. And this is a practice which, it's a bit of a clumsy title, but I think you could call it a practice in managing cravings. I'm sure many of you have had experiences where you know that this particular food isn't really good for you, but you have a craving. There's an intense desire to consume something that's salty or sweet or fatty or whatever it is. And so for many of us, those cravings are typically one of our biggest sources of challenge when we're trying to manage our weight or trying to manage our diet. Okay, so in this particular meditation practice, that's what we're going to apply this particular technique towards. And so let me just explain what the mechanics or the principles are behind this technique. So when we do this meditation, okay, when anyone does any meditation for that matter, we're sitting, we're being still for a couple of minutes. During that window of time, we're going to have all kinds of experiences as we sit. We're going to have sensations, maybe your nose starts itching, maybe your knee starts losing sensation, maybe your foot falls asleep. Okay? We're also going to have all kinds of feelings when we meditate. The feelings like, oh, I'm getting so bored, when is this going to end? Feelings of restlessness and impatience and curiosity and a whole bunch of other things. And we're also going to have thoughts when we meditate. Okay? Thoughts like, how many more minutes is this going to take? What is the point of all this? So I'm just sharing the most common thoughts that beginners tend to have. And so when we practice mindfulness meditation, the basic instruction is whatever comes up, whatever sensations you feel, whatever feelings arise, whatever thoughts stream through your head, the invitation is to simply receive all of them without judgment. So if you're bored, no big deal. Okay? We don't try to get rid of the boredom. We don't try to fix it. We don't try to distract ourselves. We don't open our eyes and reach for our phone. Whatever comes up in our internal experience, we just let it be. we learn to be with the discomfort, okay, if the sensation, the feeling, and the thought is uncomfortable. If the feeling, the thought, the sensation is pleasant, same thing, we just let it be. We don't hold on to it. We don't try to make it last. It's really a practice in radically accepting life as it unfolds. Okay, so that's what we're sort of going to be doing. And so some of you might be wondering, well, what does that have to do with cravings? Okay? So consider that, our cravings are emotion-laden thoughts. Okay? There's a thought, I want something. I want a bag of chips. I want a cookie. I want a slice of cake. So it's a thought. And there's a feeling that accompanies it, a feeling of wanting, a feeling of desire, a feeling of anticipation. And there are sensations too. Your stomach might start growling, your salivary glands might start working. And so there's this entire world of thought, feeling, and sensation that accompanies a craving. Now, typically when we get a craving, we don't have much practice in just letting it be. The minute we feel a craving, there's this intense desire to indulge it. Okay? Parang in Tagalog, we say, hindi tayo mapakali. Okay? So this is where mindfulness meditation is a direct bearing on being with our cravings without surrendering to them. Because if we can just learn to be with the discomforts of our usual emotions, thoughts, and feelings and sensations, we're in a way training ourselves for the discomfort of cravings. So if you can sit in mindfulness meditation, even if you're bored, and you're just kind of tolerating it, let it be, it's okay. Boredom's not going to kill me, it hasn't killed anyone. And you're going to notice that what happens is that your boredom's going to escalate, and then it hits a peak, and then it slowly starts going down, and then it turns into something else. So we just kind of need to tolerate it for a short while, and then it'll pass. The same thing happens to our cravings. Okay? It will intensify. It'll get worse, and then it'll hit its peak. It'll plateau, and then slowly it'll pass. But the thing is, many of us don't sit long enough with the craving. Just as it's intensifying, we immediately act, we immediately indulge. Okay? And so when we can learn how to tolerate discomfort, mental, emotional discomforts, physical discomforts, when we sit in mindfulness meditation, it is direct training for dealing with the discomfort of cravings. And so that the next time you have a craving, not that I'm saying that this will succeed every single time, right? But the next time you experience a craving, there's much more ease. There's a greater facility in, I can hang out with this craving for 5 seconds. I don't need to stand up and go to the fridge. Okay, let me wait 5 seconds more. So we slowly develop what psychologists call affect tolerance, the ability to tolerate wide ranges of emotion or affect. Okay? This isn't an overnight journey, though. We do need to practice this for the skill to be developed. But, at least you know how it works. So what we're going to do in the time that we have remaining is we're going to just do a mindfulness meditation. Okay, we're going to be focusing on the body and the breath. And then whatever arises in your experience, pleasant or unpleasant, just learn to let it be. If you start getting bored, see if you can resist the temptation to open your eyes and look at the clock. Okay, see if you can resist tapping your fingers or shaking your leg. Learn to be with the discomfort of it. And that will give you some mastery later on when you're dealing with cravings. Okay, so let's begin by just assuming a posture that embodies the qualities of dignity and ease. Allow your spine to be long. Allow the shoulders to relax towards the ground. And then soften your gaze as if you're just letting the light enter your eyes. Or if you wish, you can close your eyes altogether. And let's just ease into the practice by taking 3 cycles of the breath. Breathing in Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. And breathing out. Now gently focus your awareness on the breath. To be precise, focus on the sensations that you feel in your body as you breathe. So as you inhale and as you exhale, you'll notice things like the air touching the inner walls of your nose. You'll notice the shoulders moving up and moving down. You'll notice your chest expanding and contracting. You'll notice your belly rising and falling. So you can just stay with whichever part of the body allows you to track your breath with ease. So you can just pay attention to your shoulders when you breathe, or you can stay with your stomach as you breathe. And as you sit and focus on the breath, the sensations will come up. You'll start feeling things in different parts of the body. Feelings will come up. Thoughts will come up. Don't resist them, but don't get lost in them. Acknowledge them briefly, whatever the sensation, whatever the feeling, whatever the thought is. Just acknowledge that it's there without resistance, without trying to fix anything. And then just go back to being mindful of the breath. It's common when we meditate for the mind to wander. That's normal. Don't worry about it. If you're getting distracted, if your mind has gotten lost in thoughts, again, just acknowledge whatever that distraction is. And then just go back to the breath. Whether whatever is coming up, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, just let it be as it is. Acknowledge it briefly. And just go back to being mindful of the breath. Let's practice this on our own for the next 8 to 12 cycles. Inhaling, just being aware that you're inhaling. Exhaling, just being aware that you're exhaling. And as you sit, as you pay attention to the breath, all kinds of things will come up. You'll feel all kinds of things in different parts of your body. You'll feel different emotions, some pleasant, some unpleasant. And your mind will continuously produce thoughts. See if you can just let them all be. Acknowledge them briefly, and then just go back and rest on the breath. Just doing this for a few more cycles. And then as soon as you complete the next exhale, just relax your awareness, pause, and use this pause just to notice if there are any changes in your inner experience. And then slowly taking your time, if you happen to have closed your eyes, you can open your eyes now. Okay, so that was an exercise in mindfulness meditation, being mindful of the body and the breath. And it's really just an opportunity for us to be still. Okay, we're just using our focus on the body and the breath to keep the mind relatively collected and calm. But really what's happening as we sit there, we focus on the breath, is that we're going to feel all kinds of things. You probably noticed your knee was twinging, your nose was itching, you can feel the ventilation against your skin. And there are all these feelings and thoughts coming up. And the whole time you're just, okay, just let it be, just let it be, just let it be. And that develops a skill, which over time you'll find will be helpful when you have to deal with these things called cravings. And so that's it. That's all we have time for. I hope that you found this short session together useful and valuable. And I wish you a beautiful holiday season ahead, filled with all the joys that come with the delights of Christmas. So, namaste.